Chapter 15, Section 4 starts on page 1037. This section, you are going to learn about histograms. It's a different kind of graph, similar to bar graphs. And to construct those histograms, you are going to use frequency tables. So on 1038, this is what a histogram looks like. The biggest difference with a histogram and a bar graph are your intervals. Notice that it goes from 10 to 20 on the first one. We're talking about the number of floors in the tallest buildings in the Twin Cities, which are in Minnesota. So you have 10 to 20 here, and it's about 8 buildings here. So I still want you to number your bins. Your textbook's going to call them bins. From 20 to 30, it looks to be about 27. From 30 to 40, let's say 17. 40 to 50, 5. And then 50 to 60, 4. Still need to title your graphs. Make sure your graphs have a title. Make sure your X and Y axes are labeled. This one is floors for X. Number of buildings would be Y. The one thing I want you to do differently than your textbook does is notice how the numbers go from 10 to 20 for bin 1, and then 20 to 30 for bin 2. If you have a building with 20 floors, it's unclear which bin you should put it in. So we're going to change that. When you make your bins, I want you to go from 10 to 19. Let me write that a little better. So we're going to change that to 10 to 19, and then 20 to 30. The reason they do that is because now you've got two numbers that are right next to each other. But for our bins, we need to make it more clear. That is a histogram. On page 1042 is a large chart with New York City's 20 tallest buildings and Chicago's 20 tallest buildings. Remember, this book was published in 2010. It's already out of date. We're not going to complete all of the problem. So I want you to look at the top 5. So you've got 54, 57, 55, and 66. The way you would make a frequency table, and you've done these before, these are just, another one would be called a tally chart. So you've got buildings in the 50s, 60s, 70s. There's 1, 2, 3. So you just go 1, 2, 3. There's one in the 60s. Then let's say we had 1, 2, 3. Let's say we had 5 buildings with 70 or more floors. That is a frequency table. Like I said, you have done this before. You would then take your data, which would be that, and then you'd put it in a chart that's on page 1043. So number of floors, once again, I want you to go like, say, 40 to 49, 50 to 59, 60 to 69, and so forth. You'd count your frequency chart. I've got 7 buildings here, I say 12 here, and 13 here. When you go to make your graph, once again, very similar to a bar graph, you can start with 40, and then 49 would be here. 50 is going to be right next to it. That's why your textbook goes 40 to 50 and 50 to 60, 59. And then you just take your bars up. They do not specifically give you data on how many buildings have 43 floors. You only know how many buildings have between 40 and 49. So it's good for large amounts of data, and it also will help you with data distribution. Let's say you've got a couple buildings here. So most of the buildings in New York City would be between 40 and, say, 60 floors or 70 floors. This data would be skewed left, skewed right, excuse me, because most of the data is on the left. That is a histogram. Pretty easy. Get your packet, do some practice problems. We're not going to do more in the textbook. That's it.